We are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the weekly BrYangle Report. My name is Bryan Weiss, coming to you live right here from Henry's in Newmarket, Ontario, across the entire Henry's YouTube streams. I'm so stoked about that. So thank you, Henry's, for having the show on. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Do me a favor. Say hi in the chat. Let me know if the sound is okay. Let me know if everything's looking good. If it's not, let's fix it early. Otherwise, I'm going to get right to it. Oh, Anthony, Jim, Michael, and Tom all watching. Brian's here in studio. Good to see you, sir. The crowd goes mild. All right, cool. We have a lot to talk about today. People keep asking me all the time. We get customers coming in the store and saying, you know, our camera's dead. You guys still sell cameras? Like, don't cell phones do everything these days? No, cameras aren't dead. There's a certain place for it, maybe. What's dying is curiosity. What's dying is intention. What's dying is slowing down long enough to visualize an image, sit down and make that image. The world has gotten very quick. Everybody is moving along at a fast pace, and photography seems to be suffering. The benefit of this suffering is the cell phone company, because they make computational marvels that do incredible things. So that's what the show is going to be about today, guys. We're going to talk about where, in a world where AI can hallucinate a skateboarder sliding down the back of a moose faster than you can say f-stop, that's a pretty scary place. So let's clarify. Let's go into why we still need these funky things called cameras rather than just a cell phone. I got into a big debate with one of my former partners about, you know, cell phones can do anything that a camera can do. Brian's shaking his head no. I'm shaking my head no. But welcome to the BrYangle Report. Let's talk about it. First, though, I got a did you know I want to talk about. And just so you all know, this is not an anti, AI. This isn't an AI bashing show. That's not the point of what I'm talking about. It has nothing to do with that. I'm going to get into factual differences between the tech. Physics, you know, that thing that you can't change. We're going to talk about some things. But before I dive into that, I want to share a really cool AI benefit, a tool. And this is the Did You Know for today. So let me first see if there's anybody saying anything in the chat. There's a radio ad on 680 News advertising the new Canon, telling people to get off their phone and use a camera. Yeah, thank you, Canon. And again, there's reasons for that. For my answer when people come in and they ask us, do people still buy cameras? My answer is normally, well, probably not you, because if you think a cell phone is doing what you need it to do, that's perfect. But there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to it. Okay, guys, let me get into the Did You Know? And this is kind of an interesting one. So to do this, I'm going to share my Lightroom screen. Brian, if you want to come around and see this, you're welcome to. All right, so this is my Lightroom, folks, and this is an unedited photo from the last wrestling event that I shot. And I'm just going to show you the power of AI in editing tools these days. So first of all, you can see it's kind of a dark photo. I use off-camera flash. You can see the flash coming from the left and lighting him just a little bit. But this is in a church gymnasium. It's not the best lighting. And I don't have time to set the lighting perfectly for every photo because it's different everywhere I go. So they have this tool where you click this little masking button right here. And let's just make sure this is showing. Yep, it looks like it is. When you choose any of these options, select sky, background, it's going to automatically mask your photo and choose just that area. In fact, it goes even further. If I choose the person, I can then choose his facial skin, body skin, eyebrows, eyes, pupils, hair, clothes, and it does all the masking for me. Now, the reason this is important is because, let me tell you a little story. It's story time with Brian right now. In about 2012, a bunch of us from the Newmarket Camera Club went down to Toronto for a Ben Willmore, Scott Kelby Tours educational workshop. It was like a 3 or 4 hour long workshop where he was teaching us the pen tool and masking and selecting things. All right, so this is a multi-hour workshop that we went through. A bunch of us from the camera club, including my mentor, Ross, who knows everything about everything. On the train ride back from Toronto, we were all like, what did we just learn? Like, we had no clue. We were totally lost with what he was trying to teach us. So I actually messaged Ben Willmore himself, and he did a private Google Hangout with us and the whole camera club that night. And we went through all of these things again for another hour of his time. And by the time that was done, I still didn't know anything that he was talking about. So the select tool has always been a mystery. Now with AI tools, you can literally just choose his facial skin, create that mask, and literally just make his face brighter or darker, or any of the changes that I want to do to that exact select area. It'll mask hair. It'll do it so well that you won't even see a problem with it. So I just wanted to share that with you. I think that's a really, really helpful tool when you get into using AI for good. It's a tool. Now here's the difference, and this is where it becomes really important. I'm going to cut away here. I'm going to make my screen bigger once again and get rid of that Lightroom thing, because I think the next point I want to make is probably the most important of the entire show. But I can't make it until you can see me properly. It's the rule. It's the rule of Bryan. I have all these things that all right, here we go. Yoink. There we go. All right, so it's amazing that we can do these amazing things. Points, channels, selections, feathering, all of these tools are right there at our disposal. But if you're going to take the time and edit every single one of those things in and out of your images, that's where we come into the disconnect between being a creative and being a technical. By being able to eliminate a lot of that technical mumbo jumbo, the creative can come out. And there's a big difference. Here's the key difference. This isn't AI creating a photo, right? This is your photo. You've already made the photo. It's AI helping you work faster. And that's it. When I was in school, they didn't let us use calculators, right? You too, Bryan?
Even my accounting exams, no calculator.
There you go. Account exams wasn't allowed to use calculators. When Martin was working, they used an abacus, but you know, things have changed since then. So I have to give a Martin dig every once in a while. Bottom line is things change. Tools come out to make life easier. So if there's one AI feature I would recommend everybody start to consider to use, it's this masking tool in Lightroom. Excellent little tool. And honestly, 12 years after the Ben Willmore workshop, I really wish I had this tool then. Would have been awesome. All right, so that's the Did You Know. Let's see if we have anybody asking questions on this. Oh, looks good and sounds good. Thank you, Michael Drukarsh. Debbie's watching. All right, Anne's watching. Very cool. Thank you to everybody who's watching the show today, of course, as always. We really appreciate you taking the time to be here. And now let's get into the what's new and used, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about there too, before we even get to the core conversation. What's new? First of all, there's all these really great cameras that have just come out, the R6 III and so on. My advice for people looking at these new cameras is go to the Henry's website and check out all the pre-orders, because the R6 III comes out in a kit or the body alone. We're taking a lot of orders for these. That 45mm f1.2 lens for like under $600. Insane that they have a 1.2 lens. A lot of Insta cameras as well are new. I'm going to be talking about an Insta360 for the spark plug later on in the show. There's all kinds of new things like that. So for what's new this week, I'm going to ask you to check out thehenrys.com and go to the bottom of the page where the pre-orders and the new arrivals are shown, and have a good look around, because there's all kinds of new stuff coming in this time of year. And as far as what's used goes, we just got a shipment yesterday, and I'm stoked about it, because we finally got like 3 or 4 bins of used stuff in, including these. Now I'm talking today about using cameras instead of cell phones, but what if you can pick up for $70 a nice little film camera and actually go back a little step further, start shooting film. This is the EOS Rebel 2000. It's been around for a minute, but these cameras will go forever and ever, put new batteries in and you're good to go. Of course, you've got 90-day warranty when you buy our used stuff, and for $70, I think that's pretty good value. And then of course, one of my favorite cameras has always been the Canon Rebel. It's a great entry point into DSLR world, or digital camera world in general. This guy here is the T5i. I've sold the T5i over the T7i and the T8i for many situations. Well made, good quality, touch screen, decent video. And this is pretty much when they started to get really good with the autofocus on a DSLR. But it comes with a lens, everything included. This package is selling for $450. $450. What? Bryan says, $450. So good used options, and you can still buy 3 years warranty on that. And by the way, that only has 12,000 photos on it, so it's virtually untouched. It's excellent value. Now these two things right here, I am more than excited about because we have people coming in asking for them, and we haven't had them for quite a while. So we have a 2470 Nano f2.8, gorgeous. It's just gorgeous. Yeah, I don't know why I sound like that. Because that's why. Bryan, good answer. 2470 f2.8 selling for $650. Now that's a rated 7. It's a Nikon. Yeah, that's a Nikon. Sorry, it doesn't fit on your R8. Now I also have another Nikon right here, 24-120, super popular lens. That's their f4 aperture, 24-120. Awesome little lens, nano coated as well. This is only for $500. So used stuff has great value. Just because cell phones are flashy doesn't mean you can't really do great things with this. And stay tuned until the end of the show and you'll know exactly why I say all that. All right, let's just see if there's any comments or questions. In Photoshop, the select and the remove option is getting really good. Removing people, removing text from an image. My favorite thing in Photoshop is circling like a background where there's a person. I'm doing a thing called Ether Sports Photography right now. I'm doing portraits of hockey players and sports athletes, and I'm using fire and I'm doing some funky stuff. My helper, I shouldn't say my helper, my business partner in this venture, Allison, is always like lighting the fire and she's like worried about getting out of the photo. I can literally draw a circle around her and say, remove Allison, and it just gets rid of it. Like, I feel so good just saying, remove Bryan from the photo or remove whatever. It doesn't work in real life. No, it doesn't work in real life. But it's a really cool feature, and you're absolutely right, Anthony. The tools for removing things is so amazing right now. Yeah, Martin's cool, Tom says. He is cool. I love Martin. Martin's the reason I work here. I absolutely mean it. Don't take it away. Learn how to use it correctly. Absolutely. But if it doesn't work as you wish, how easy is it to change it? That's a good question, Jim. When you're doing cloning and you're removing things, it'll usually give you 3 options. And if you don't like the option it gives, just hit recycle and it gives you 3 more options and it'll just generate different versions. Most of the time it does it right in the first time, but you can circle around the mistakes and just remove those as well. So there are still easy ways to remove it, but all those advanced ways are still there. So if you do get really good with all that, there's still a lot of different ways to use that software. Working as you wish versus working correctly are not always the same thing. Very true. And sometimes don't like AI, better to learn how to use it correctly. Yeah, and that's the key with any tool. It's any tool. Bryan, you work with wood, you work with all kinds of different things. You had Bryan's brackets, you worked with so many different things in your career. Using the right tool makes all the difference in the world. You're not going to use a hammer to take out a tooth, right? You use, well, I mean, they used to, but that's when hammers were all over the place. It's possible. All right, so I think you get the idea. All right, let's get to the main content. The real name of the show is the 7 real reasons cameras still matter. Now, there are more reasons. In fact, I found 2 more reasons that I'm going to talk about quickly. First is, I like them, right? I like them. I like taking a camera and making a photo. I enjoy the process of changing my shutter speed and changing my aperture and getting into the nitty-gritty to create an image that I pre-visualize. I think that's important, and that's not even in my notes. Separate thing I thought about. But so many people claim their phone can do everything that a camera can do. I'm going to show you a few photos in a minute, and I'd love to see the phone that could do these kinds of photos. That'd be amazing. Now, there's also the second part of resolution and print quality. Printers expect a certain amount of detail and resolution when you're making a fine art print. Cell phones don't have that dynamic range sometimes for the print side of things. So printing is another way, or another real reason why a 300 DPI interchangeable lens camera system has benefits over a 72 DPI cell phone. Big differences. But that's not even in my notes, so I'm moving on again. All right. Cell phones don't do what cameras do. They kind of fake it, right? It's all computational power. There's a lot of computational power on those little cameras, and I will give them all the credit in the world. They do amazing things these days, and they're only going to get better. But until they start putting larger sensors, bigger lenses, real optics, and real ability to have intention, they're still going to be a bit behind. And there's still some room to grow. And I'm not going to say that they're not going to take over cameras one day. I can see more integrating a cell phone into what a camera is capable of, that like blend of things. We're not there yet. So this is what I want to share. I'm going to go back to my screen share here and share with you a couple photos that may represent the hardships that a cell phone will come across. So let's see, I think that's this window here. It is, all right, guys, here we go. So first off, here's just some Google photos that I searched, my best of 2024 non-wrestling photos, although there's usually a little bit of something in here. So first of all, this is a photo of my coworker, Steve. To get the silhouette, to get the detail on his face still, and I get exactly what I have in this image, you kind of need proper lighting. Now, a cell phone may be able to make this, but not necessarily trigger the strobes and the things that I did myself. Or how about this one? A heron capturing a fish, getting the water droplets coming off the fish. And this is from a bit of a distance. And this isn't the best photo in the world either. There are some incredible fine art wildlife images out there that really show what a camera can do. Cell phones have such small sensors, the dynamic range suffers, the detail suffers, and the crop ability suffers. So the more you end up cropping in your image, the more it's going to degrade and you're going to be unhappy. This is cropped in quite a bit, and it still has no loss of picture quality. Again, same heron flying away, being able to track the motion and being able to follow it across the water and selectively choose that bird instead of the entire water is a thing that cell phones probably couldn't do. How about a picture of the moon? Samsung just got into a lot of trouble lately with their moon photography. I don't know if you all heard about this. I talked about it on the show at one point. They took a photo, a stock photo of the moon, and would layer it over the photo you took with your phone so that your phone photo looked like it had craters. Fact. This is a photo of the moon. And this is taken with a real camera, a proper lens, and the detail is as good as I could possibly make it. There are still better photos of people doing stacked images and so on, so there's incredible tech involved in making some of these images, but nonetheless, I haven't seen a photo or a cell phone do this yet. Now I'm going to bust over for a quick second and see if anybody's commenting, because I want people to counter me on this. I want to hear your experience with your cell phones. I'm not up here with ego or attitude saying that you have to do this or you have to do that. I'm literally showing you some factual differences between tools. So I'd love to hear what you have to say. Let's just see if there's any comments here. Everyone's definition of everything is not the same. That's true. Use your AI or your camera. Sometimes don't like AI. Yeah, okay. Hi, Brian, I made it. Hey, Gord, good to see you here, bud. All right, let's move along. So here is a quick rapid fire list of some reasons why a camera can do a lot better than a cell phone. Let me just see if I can be over here and do this at the same time. So having control, shutter speeds, apertures, ISO, focus points, all of these things. Having control over what settings are going to deliver your expected results. Dynamic range, shadow details and highlight details. A picture in a park where the water is really bright, the sky is really bright, but the tree line gets very dark. There's no cell phone that can bring up the tree line, bring down the highlights, and make that exposed correctly. In fact, even a camera has a hard time with that. That's where HDR comes in and processing in a bigger sensor camera. But without dynamic range, it will break up, it'll look kind of muddy looking, and I'm sure you've all seen what I'm talking about. Optics, these things. There's a reason why this is so big. There's a reason why so much light can pass through these guys, because optics matter. Having good glass. Depth of field, being able to control the shallow depth of field. A sensor has a lot to do with depth of field control. The tiny little sensors you get on a cell phone make it really difficult to get shallow depth of field photos unless you physically move the object close to the camera like I'm doing right now, where it will automatically blur the background, and that's just one of the 3 ways to control that feature. Sensor size is fighting that the whole time. Timing. I mean, I don't know about you, Bryan, but I've tried to take pictures with my cell phone, and it's like getting that timing just right is not as easy as going click with a camera with your settings correct. right? The rapid fire ability for me to shoot my wrestling and to get the shot exactly when I want to get it. A cell phone, I'd be behind or I'd be ahead. I'd be guessing exactly when I need to fire that. A real shutter. A shutter that opens and closes and exposes your light to, or your sensor to light, capturing photons and capturing real detail. Cell phones are not quite done the same way. They do a decent job, and for many things, they do it really, really well. But these are things where you have a bit of an edge. Real light, real physics, real emotion. We take our time with our cameras. We spend a little bit more time creating an image and think about that photo a little bit more and have some sort of emotional connection to that moment a little bit more when we take our time. So that's just a quick rapid fire difference. Now here are factual differences. 7, certifiable, measurable, and understandable differences between cell phones and cameras. To go any further, I think I'm just going to pull away from these photos. I'll quickly blast through so you can see some more pictures that I was going to talk about. A lot of these, there's just no way a cell phone will capture the same story and the same image. Bald eagle in the tree, and this thing was so far away, without a proper sensor and proper dynamic range, this would have been nothing but mud. And the fact that I can see it's a bald eagle and actually have some feather detail, that's a real testament to the camera. Portraits, absolutely. A controlled lighting environment where you're triggering flashes and getting extreme detail. Absolutely, that's a huge difference, and you're not going to get the same results. People will take great photos with a cell phone, and they'll probably make really cool portraits, very artistic, interesting looking pictures. But you know, the screen is obviously a part of it too. Absolutely, for sure. All right, let me pull my screen back up here, speaking of screens, and make that a little bit bigger. There we go. All right. Anybody having a comment so far? The biggest resolution photo of the moon is 1.3 gigapixels. 1.3 gigapixels? What? Holy geez. That's like a super stacked photo, I guess. Wild, wild. All right, guys. Well, nobody's fighting me on these points yet, so I guess I'm hitting a couple marks. That's good. All right, let's get to those 7 certifiable reasons. Number 1, sensor size. Now, to show you sensor size, I've got something right here. A point and shoot camera from back in the day, a little 3.2 megapixel Sony Click point and shoot. There is your digital sensor. That tiny little chip right there. Okay? The sensor on a higher end, like let's say a G7X, everybody's talking about the Canon G7X. That would be something a little bit bigger than this guy right here. Not that much larger, a little bit. Then we get into an APS-C camera, very much like this Rebel right here. That is your sensor for an APS-C. Now, if we compare the size of a point and shoot to an APS-C, it's pretty dramatic, right? Now we go to full frame, and I'm not even going to bring up medium format, but there's full frame. Massive. Now, the reason I'm getting into sensor size is there are many, many advantages to larger sensors. First being dynamic range, more shadow detail, more highlight detail. Second being something I've just talked about, it's a major influence of depth of field control. The bigger the sensor, the less depth you will notice in your photo, or the more control of that depth you will have of your photo. So if you're trying to do weddings and portraiture, and you're trying to really be selective of making a certain thing in focus and the rest of it blurry, the larger your sensor, the more control of that you have. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned yet is the size of a cell phone sensor, which is about half the size of one of these guys in many cases. So getting into a cell phone, one of the biggest disadvantages you're going to have is the computational side of things is going to make things up to look like a photo. It'll blur the background with digital stuff. It'll stack photos internally. It'll do all these things to simulate creating larger photons with a bigger sensor. So a bigger sensor basically just doesn't guess as much, I think is a good way to think of it. It simply just sees more. So sensor size is a big one. Number 2, optics. Hang on one second, Brian. Ba-ba-bum. Yes.
APS-C, I went from an APS-C to a full frame. Absolutely amazing difference.
Yeah, you can
Going
see
through-
it.
Oh, and I had 70 Mark II APS-C, good camera.
Yep.
R8, full frame, way better image.
Yeah, there's a couple reasons. One being bigger sensor, another being it's a newer camera, newer processor. It cleans up things a little bit, but you're absolutely right. You notice sensor size, and that's a big thing. Now, number two, optics. Real glass versus computational simulation. Again, the lens on my camera, and at the time mine was a very good camera. The lens on this guy is that big. Compare that to these guys. There is a difference, folks. You can say all you want, there's a difference. You get better depth of field, you get more contrast, you get better resolution, you're controlling distortion better, you're eliminating chromatic aberration, and these are all things that a camera is better for. Now, cell phones use short, wide lenses in general. They use aggressive digital correction, and they basically use simulated depth, a portrait blur effect that they give, and of course, computational sharpness. So computational blur isn't the same as optical blur. There's a difference. It's just like film grain versus digital noise. There's a difference, right? When you know it, you see it, and it's really annoying. One is physics, and one's math. I go with physics all day, every day. Number three, dynamic range. I've talked about it in relation to the sensor size, but native versus reconstructed dynamic range is very different. A fact, cameras record full range in tons in a single raw exposure. Phones often blend multiple exposures to create HDR to simulate that. So where we're getting, 14, 15 stops on a SLR camera or interchangeable lens mirrorless camera, we're getting 10 to 13 stops on a cell phone at best. So having that extra dynamic range is a huge asset. Phones are going to mix exposures to create an idealized version of the moment, where cameras are actually recording the moment that actually happened. All right, number four, but before I get to it, any questions that I should talk about? Let's see, cell phones are perfect tools for the quick capture of memories and the ability to share photos quickly on a medium, often viewed on the same phone. That's true, actually, that's what you were saying, Bryan. It's often viewed on that small little screen, right? And this comes back to intention. I mean, intention is probably the biggest takeaway from the show today. Having intention, having a visualized image in your head as a photographer, I think is the biggest, most important thing. Any tool you own, you just have to know how to use it and you can make that happen. But without that original intent, you're just kind of taking pictures. And there's a big difference between a picture taker and a photographer. You be whatever you want to be. There's no right or wrong, but there's a difference. All right, color depth and bit depth. Now this is where we're going to get a bit technical. Most phone images are, 8-bit JPEGs. Some of the higher end ones that shoot RAW will go 10-bit HEIC files where you can get a little bit more resolution and detail. Cameras are 12 to 14-bit RAW, 100% RAW. You can get vastly more gradients per channel. You are basically way more edit ability. You have all kinds more levity, I guess you could say, from your highlights and your shadows and all the pieces in between when you do your editing, because you have more bit depth to work with. So yes, cell phones are great for landscape pictures or the things that you're taking pictures of, but when you start to really push those files, that's where you'll notice what I'm talking about. Low light performance is the big deal, guys. I shoot pro wrestling. It's all low light. The photo, actually I didn't show you, but my wrestling photos are on average 6,400 to 10,000 ISO. On average, most of the time around 8,000. When I'm shooting in Barry, 8,000 all the time. Having the bit depth allows my software to use noise removal, AI, to clean it. The more pixels I have, the more ability to clean that noise. So cell phones don't have the bit depth to work with, and having that low light performance and basically it's gain control versus actual light capture is the difference we're talking about. So gain control, you're heating up the pixels more, you're creating more noise, just like on a car audio amplifier. If you crank the gain too much, it just sounds distorted, unless you have a really nice amplifier, which I've got a good one. Anyway, light capture is the big deal though. I mean, photography literally means drawing with light. Phones are often going to rely on the digital gain multi-frame stacking, as I've mentioned, AI noise cleaning, and detail enhancement, where cameras rely on actual light, larger sensors, and cleaner high ISO performance. So for low light, advantage camera. A phone will reconstruct the dark, but a camera captures it. All right, now number 6, motion render, true shutter versus a synthetic sharpness. This is a bit weird to think about, but a true shutter on a camera where it opens and closes light is going to freeze motion a little bit sharper. And with the timing involved in a real camera, you're able to go click and get that moment rather than, touch your screen on your phone, hit that button hopefully, and let it focus and think and then capture the shot. If your phone's on manual mode and you've locked in your shutter speed and you've bumped up your ISO and you've cranked open your aperture and you've done everything you possibly can, you are still going to be hindered by how quick it's going to take the picture and all the rest of the things that are involved there. Oh yeah, another thing about the cell phone is it's a lot of times going to stack an image or take multiple shots in a low light scene and pick the one it feels looks best. And that's the one it saves. So there's all this computational power going on cell phones where you're not just going click and capturing a single image. You might get ghosting, you might get some fake clarity, and artifacts around subjects are going to be all over the place. So cameras are freezing motion, phones are kind of negotiating with it, kind of negotiations with motion. And the last thing, intent. Goes right back to intent. Is this a tool or an assistant, right? Fact is, phones are going to prioritize ease. They're going to prioritize automation, beautification, stabilization, and they're very pleasing, shareable images, right? You can share these phone photos with everybody. But cameras are going to prioritize your control. They're going to prioritize your intentionality. They're going to prioritize your accuracy. And above all, they're going to prioritize your creative choice. So, one tool is going to decide for you, where the other one is always just kind of waiting for your decision, right? You've got to ask yourself, what do you want from your photography? By no means is this show going to be phones suck, cameras are great, you got to do this, you got to do that. I'm just pointing out differences, and you use the tool that's best for you. If you're a photographer, if you're a picture maker, and if you're a creator, you're always looking to improve your results. One way to improve, better sensors. Another way, better lenses. Another way, better intention, slowing down. And the best way is find the right tool for you. If it's my Z6 III that I use all the time, great, it's what I need. If it's Bryan's R8, perfect. If it's the person that's lucky enough to come in and pick up this T5i kit, sweet. Learn how to use your tool. You'll make great images with it. The first interaction I had with Peter McKinnon in our store, he was a customer. He came in, there was customers talking about a kit lens being a horrible quality, and Pete brought in a picture. He says, this was made with the kit lens from 3 years ago. And it was a picture of an Adidas watch, best photo I've ever seen of an Adidas watch, black and blue and beautiful color and kit stuff. That's when I learned early on in my career, it's not the tool. A bunch of the time, it's not so much the tool, it's the creator. And having the right tool for the creator is where the magic's going to happen. So that's my advice to everybody. Go out there and have fun. But one thing I've been thinking about all week, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I use AI tools all the time, right? It's something that we do. But I'm not using AI to replace my photography. I'm not using these tools to fake images. I'm using it to make my life a little bit easier. I'm using it to be a notebook for me to keep notes. I'm using it to, help me think of different ideas. I'm using it to help make the show because there's a lot of ideas that I need to make the show every week. There are tools out there to help, but they're my words, it's my thoughts, it's my direction, and that's the difference between capturing photos with a cell phone most of the time and taking your time and using a proper camera. Let me see if anybody has anything to add to that. No. Nope, nobody's adding anything to it, but that's okay. All right, guys. Now here's where I think the photographer's relevance is so important. When I grew up, a picture was proof. The old expression, a picture's worth 1,000 words, it's changed. Now it's more, every picture is a question. And this is where it gets frustrating. And this is actually where the whole intention of this show came from. Every photo you see online, you have to question. There's a new generation of kids growing up or people growing up not knowing the hard comfort of truth. It's been blended and phased away by people in the upper levels of the world. So when it comes to photography and what it means to be a photographer, I think we have to remember that truth is not going to disappear. These are things that it's just not going to happen. And there's always people going back to older tech. Film is busier today than it was when I started here 19 years ago. People are always wanting truth and tangible things. So cell phones have their place, everybody. When I go to the grocery store, if I don't know what I'm going to buy, I take a picture of it, I send it to my wife, and she tells me, no, that's not what I wanted. So they definitely work for a lot of things. If I'm in the middle of nowhere and I don't have my camera on me and I see a beautiful sunset, I'm going to take a picture with my cell phone. Probably not going to print it, most likely not going to share it online, just because it was for me. And that's about it. Photographers aren't disappearing. We're becoming more important than we've ever been, because now we are the truth, and that's so important. All right, that's it for the core conversation. Before I move on to the spark plug of the day, I want to just see if anybody has anything that they want to add. Agree, it's not the tool, it's about practice using the tool to learn how to adjust the settings to get the shot you're looking for. 100%. Peter Green, I agree with you, 100%. Tom says, pictures have always had the ability to lie. That's true. Photographers were honest. Interesting comment. I like that a lot. Pictures always have the ability to lie. Photographers were honest. It was so much different about perceived honesty back in the day. And I say that, perceived honesty, having Tom Brokaw get up on the TV and tell us news compared to Fox and all these different weird influences that we're getting these days. So I think it's really neat that we are in this world of photography, that we can tell our own truth through a lens. And I highly encourage everybody to get out there, grab a camera, matter, and make better photos. The spark plug today, going back to AI, we got something in I didn't even know we had. And I was looking for really cool things that I could talk about. Now again, a spark plug is something that may spark some inspiration in you. And it's a product that I'm plugging on the show, so a spark plug. Today's spark plug is this guy right here, the Insta360 Link 2. It's an AI-controlled webcam. Has facial tracking. It works in so many really cool different ways. It'll track, stabilize. It's not going to fabricate things. It's not that kind of AI. But if you're going to be using this as a webcam, the quality is incredible. It's the Insta360 product. It's 4K, and it does facial tracking, and it has all kinds of really cool other things. I really recommend you guys check this guy out. Insta360, Link 2, got him in stock right now, and I forgot how much it was. It's somewhere else. I'll see if I can find that because I totally forgot about what the price was here. So the Link 2 is a few dollars, I'm sure. There it is, $269.99. That's pretty awesome. So the full Insta360 Link 2 4K AI webcam, we have them here in the store. They're phenomenal quality, and I highly recommend them. All right, let's get into the closing. And there's a lot to talk about in our closing because guess what time of year it is, everybody? Bryan? Winter? Kinda, yeah, winter. Definitely, it's getting cold. It's Black Friday. And Black Friday is like, everybody's talking about Black Friday right now because apparently there's sales and stuff, right? So let's talk about Black Friday. First off, here is that Insta360 guy. And here is what I wanted to show you all about Black Friday. First of all, our prices right now are guaranteed straight through until January 8th. So if anything goes on sale, if anything, you don't like your camera, you want to return it, there's issues, you have until the 8th of January, even if you buy today, to return, exchange, price match, whatever you want to do. Henry's has always got their customers back for over 115 years or whatever it is, since 2008. Not 2000, 1908, Henry's has been around. So with Black Friday deals, it's no different. Our prices are always priced the same as the other Black Friday sales, but we have the Shop More, Get More program. So you can earn up to $200 Henry's cash back that you can come in from January 9th till the 29th, to redeem on anything more than the value you got. So if you come in and you spend $2,000 on a new camera, you're going to get $200. Spend $1,500, you're going to get $150, and so on and so on. Excellent deal, and it's just free money for you in the new year to come and buy your batteries or buy a lens or whatever you may need, a camera bag. It's just really handy to have. And of course, all kinds of other really great things. I'm going to recommend everybody also go to the bottom of the page, Henry's homepage, and check out some videos, because Anthony has been putting together some really cool videos on the Henry Spotlight. He just released one right now, the 3 lenses constantly used to make movies. I watched it. I love what Anthony's doing with Henry's marketing. He's got a great sense of humor. He's been a big help for me in the show, of course, but you learn a lot from this guy. That's who we learn from internally. Anthony knows what he's talking about. So check out Anthony's videos, and that's about it for that. Okay, guys, I want to remind everybody that cameras aren't dead. Photography isn't dead. Seeing isn't dead. What's dying is trust. What's dying is our attention span. And those are things that we can control. So every time you pick up a camera with intention, every time you capture something that actually happened, you're keeping the truth alive. Photography survives because the truth still matters. And us as photographers, we are the truth. Thanks for watching this week's BrYangle, guys. Really appreciate you. Before I sign out, I just want to see if anybody has anything else they'd like to say. Awesome show. Thank you, Mr. Drukarsh. Great info. Thank you, Anne and Debbie and everybody who's watched. Can't appreciate you guys any more than I do. I tell the world about the show if you think there's a value in it. Maybe write a Google review on it. And don't forget, if you shoot for yourself, the rest will follow. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. Don't forget, next week is the inspiration show for our current photo challenge, Hold Your Fire. So get out there, make your hold your fire photos, submit them to newmarket@henrys.com. Put that lower third up here so everybody can see. Just turn that off so it's easier to see. Make this nice and quick. There you go. newmarket@henrys.com. And again, the challenge is Hold Your Fire. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you all next time. Yeah.